Welcome everyone. Just want to be a bit of a chill, laid back, late night stream. Wanted some opportunity to talk, catch up with anyone who wants to pop in. So I should discuss the Hearthstone side, right? So around the time of the first expansion of the year, Forge of the Barrens, or like just before, I made like a couple of videos on like the new core set. It's gonna be a huge change that's coming to Hearthstone sort of thing. To be fair, I kind of sold the game better than it actually was, because for example, this patch 20.0 biggest update ended up being a very buggy update. So the thing is, I portrayed the positive side of Hearthstone a lot, right? I didn't really mention the negative side too much. I would poke fun at it, but that's kind of what stopped me from actually releasing more videos, because I didn't want to release a video that was kind of negative. So what happened was the early Forge in the Barrens meta for the first expansion of the year. Yeah, that was not too fun. Personally for me and for a vocal portion of the audience, because of... So there were a couple of decks in Hearthstone in the early Forge in the Barrens meta. My overall, impression of the meta was that you had to play established decks against these powerful mage and paladin decks. You had to play established types of cards, exact cards or exact strategies, or you would have a bad time. So a limited amount of decks that you had for each class. And I didn't like that. I would prefer to have a little bit more fluid type of deck building where you can maybe switch out a couple cards, have some preference, and it'd still be fine. I wanted that flexibility, and I just didn't see it, because, like, for example, with the mage, well, because mage had such good cards that supported the no spell archetype, that being one of the top decks, because those cards that supported the no spell mage so well were so good, there was no incentive to play a different type of mage, because there was minion mage, or mage with minions. But while I did try it, I mean, it was okay, but you just didn't feel good playing it because of, well, a couple of reasons. Because firstly, consistency, right? The best decks will have good consistency, but if you could still eke out a, funny win, or just a clutch win with your minion mage or your off meta deck, then it'll be all fine. And I feel like that was better or more achievable in previous years than with the start of the Forge and the Barrens meta, which really limited stuff. And I haven't even talked about the Paladin side. So before I go to the Paladin side, I will talk a little bit. I'll go in more detail. I'll point out specific cards, right? We had couple of key cards that basically defined it. This one, Refreshing Springwater, new card for the spell mage archetype. So really good for mage decks with spells only. This used to be 4 mana. So basically, this is a 0 mana draw 2. Insane. Giving card draw. Very important. And then you had Deck of Lunacy, right? So this also goes into more detail. So also, this is the thing. This is the problem I have when I'm trying to connect different game audiences, right? I can just go assume that you know what Deck of Lunacy did to the meta, or I can go, okay, you don't know what happened, how this worked with the new rotation of Fortune the Barrens, or new expansion, as I said. Because the main thing was, this was 2 mana, and it was broken because it was too consistent. And there's that word again, consistency, or consistent. Why was it so consistent? Well, let's look at the wording. Transform spells in your deck into ones that cost 3 more. So this is any spell that's in the current standard, sets. That costs 3 more. Now, at the time of Forge of the Barrens, there were only 4 expansions, right? So, there weren't actually that many spells, which meant less spells you're more likely to get a particular one, and that increases the consistency of what you get. So if we look at like spells, that's like high cost. And then if I go to like 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, that's nice. I don't think they had this before. So we're looking at spells that cost 8 or more at the time, right? Because we're saying Deck of Lunacy increases, turns all spells in your deck plus 3 cost. So they're going to be high cost. For 8 cost, you basically had Cenarian Ward, which is really good. Guardian Animals is basically none. But you had Cenarian Ward, you had Deep Freeze, you had good spells. You even had Twisting Nerve. But like mainly for the 9 and 10. For the 10 ones, you only had that Grand Slam. You had like Survival of the Fittest, and that was it. But like 50% chance of getting the Grand Slam. So the thing is, you were able to reduce the cost. It's like this. So like this would cost 7, and then you use Incantus Flow, which is another card that also helped the Spell Mage archetype. There we go. Incantus Flow. Let's just open this up, eh? This will be easier. Here we go. So we have the Dominion Mage, or Spell Mage. The key cards. Incantus Flow, reduce the cost of all your spells in your deck by 1. Because your whole deck is spells. This is literally basically getting 29 free mana or something if you just play this out immediately. Something like ridiculous like that. 27 free cards. Reduced by 1. Then you have the card draw to gain mana crystals. This is basically 0 mana draw 2. Remember, it was 4 mana. Then you also have the specific cards that do well for no minion decks. Font of Power. You get basically 1 mana, get 3 minions. That's good value. Texas Blast. Deal 5 damage. And now the damage thing is something I'll get to as well. Deal 5 damage if your deck has no minions, which of course your deck does, it's full of spells. Summon a random 5-cost minion. Good tempo, just a good tempo cards. You get to deal extra damage. And then, yeah, so like those 3 by itself, with Deck of Lunacy, which is not in here, propelled a deck that was random into something that was really consistent. So, not so random. But it was flexible enough in terms of what answers you can get to basically shut out a lot of different decks, a lot of fair decks, a lot of minion-based decks from other classes. Because, say, if I'm just playing a regular minion that's like a 4/5, I mean, Groundskeeper is a good example, right? I mean, this is a decent minion overall. But like, let's just say you're playing these type of mid-range minions or something, and your deck has a lot of them. You know, you're hoping to get a little bit of a board mid-game to, you know, get advantage into late game. Along comes this no minion mage, shuts your deck down because you have so many answers, or they just burn you. So this is the second part of why Spell Mage became so powerful, right? You already have a Texas Blast, deal 5 damage. Fireball, yeah, sure, that's key card. Master Cthulhu became more relevant, and this also turned to 10 cost, so it can turn to no Grand Slams with Deck of Lunacy. So then you even have Rune Door. Primordial Studies can discover spell damage, so you do even more. My main point is this type of powerful deck shut out a lot of minion-based strategies. A lot of board trading that used to exist to keep on the board just didn't matter anymore. Your cards need to have immediate impact. So I'm going to go with the Paladin as well. Let's see if I can find the Paladin. Because Paladin also answered these type of deck building freedom, but in a different way. So if I were to try and put it in one sentence, I would say But Mage and Paladin decks were able to find an answer to so many unique situations that many other fair decks were unable to effectively compete. That is how I would say it in one sentence, and even that's still too wordy. If I put it in like 5 words, Mage and Paladin were broken, but that doesn't make any sense. That could mean anything, right? Or Mage and Paladin restricted decks so much. Restricted fair decks a lot. That it was not fun anymore. So this is Secret Paladin. I think this would be close to what we were looking for. The thing with Paladin is that overall their package of very powerful cards allowed them to have a really good early game presence. What happened with Paladin was they were able to gain a lot of early board presence with the cheap cards. And even if they didn't get a minion on the board, they would play like a 1-drop, but like as soon as they get a minion stuck on the board, they can just play Hand of Adal, which was, it used to be give a minion +2/+2, it's nerfed now. Especially if they put this on a Crab Rider, and this is just a big minion that this early in the game and you had difficulty answering. And then they'll just pile on secrets. There are many different ways to put our secrets onto the board. Sword of the Fallen. Pretty broken weapon originally when it had 3 durability. It was a 1/3 weapon. Means that when you play it on 3 turns, you just attack and you just pull out a secret from your deck. It's just like, that's just so good in multiple ways. So let's look at the secrets. We had Avenge. Avenge brought back into standard. This is originally in Naxxramas, a 2014 card set. Galloping Savior. But like, oh my god. This card has definitely triggered some people. Because like Paladin, you're able to get out early board presence first day of school. This used to cost 0 mana. This is how you get the early board presence. You have this in your opening hand, you play it for 0 mana, you play out the 1-drop or 1-cost minion that you got from first day of school. And then on turn 2, you play a Hand of Adal, or you play Sword of the Fallen, and then you just hit and get the secret out. What I'd say overall is that the consistency of Paladin being able to put out many different ways of early board presence, because it's not just one way, right? You have many different ways in your deck to put out the same strong early board presence. So because there's a lot, you're more likely to draw it, and that increases your consistency a lot of a strong early game. Noble Sack, Omayog. So the Omayog, the thing is, like, if your opponent tries to do something, right, to remove your, for example, your Crab Rider that has been buffed or your early board presence, nope, it just gets countered by Omayog. And then your opponent just basically, if they're behind, their minions aren't going to do anything. You can just buff up and trade and draw cards and do a whole bunch of shit. And yeah, a lot of decks just could not work. Like, I won't talk about the other classes in too much detail because it was basically Mage and Paladin are the 2 biggest offenders of restricting deck freedom in terms of like minion trading, actually having board matter, or having a chance to come back, that sort of thing, and like just, you know, being able to play something different in standard. Which is that's why I don't just like to go for meta decks. Of course I will play them, but I won't want to play them all the time. It dragged on for a while because they didn't nerf these cards until much later. So like they just dragged on. I just started feeling it because it just felt like it wasn't changing. My main thing is that it's just overall I just started not wanting to play. Even though, like, I could just go and play Wild, right? Wild had its own problems as well. Even though it was still fun to play casually, there's still a good portion of players that, you know, just want to play the best decks. Because it's easy to just get the best deck online, of course. Just playing Wild is not enough to keep me in Hearthstone. Standard also has to be somewhat decent. Small patch. If we go to here, the Deca Lunacy did get nerfed. This was like a month in. This was how many weeks? This is like 3 weeks after the new expansion, which is kind of a long time. I mean, I guess the Firewatch posts, the watch posts are actually not too bad. So like, okay, I'm meshing things up now because this was a couple months ago. The thing is, it was watch posts that were really popular, as well as what I said, Mage and Paladin being very popular. Then they nerfed some cards. In this gen, this does not affect the spell mage I talked about. Sword of Fallen, of course, it got nerfed. I mean, Sword of Fallen and Penflinger, they got nerfed, and this affected Paladin the most. But as I said, Paladin still had a lot of very good cards, a lot of very consistent cards. So, and also Deca Lunacy, sure, it got nerfed. But the thing is, like, the overall effect of the patch, or the feeling afterwards, is that things felt very similar. Sure, things changed. We didn't have watch posts anymore, but watch posts were more used by Rogue. They were actually more popular in Rogue decks. So after that, Rogue didn't have that anymore. What happened instead was that Mage continued being good, despite Deca Lunacy being nerfed. They just started removing it from the deck. And Paladin just went to Libram Paladin, which I kind of predicted. I predicted that they were going to do that. They were going to go back to Libram Paladin because that was still a good package. So if you don't know what Libram Paladin is, let's have a look. But yeah, they started putting back in Auto Attendant because that wasn't in there originally for like Paladin decks, because their first day of school was so good at 0 mana. You still had the secret package in there, but then you can start putting in some big late game bombs. Carrier of Rome into discounting your Libram of Hopes and Libram Judgments. So Paladin was just strong. Same as Mage. So it felt like nothing changed, even though things did change. And I was playing like Demon Hunter decks and stuff because Demon Hunter was kind of balanced at the time. But yeah, things just started feeling samey, and then I did switch to Druid. I did end up getting Legend in Druid, like Token Druid 1 month. I just refused to play too many games of Paladin. I guess I played a little bit of Mage, because Mage is one of my more favorite classes. But the main thing is that I will say this. Okay, so like we can see here, June 3rd is when the mini set started coming out. So that's 35 new cards. 35 new cards in the Forge of the Barrens mini set. You think that would change things, that would shake up the most popular decks? I would say now in hindsight they did change, but the first couple of days you basically saw more Shaman with their new cards. Primal Dungeoneer. This card is good because it allows you to draw 2 cards, and Shaman was lacking card draw. That was how some of the other classes were so powerful. They had good card draw. So you saw some more Shaman, and then nothing else changed. Well, actually no, because Paladin did get nerfed at the same time. We should note that. But at that time, when the mini set released, I was just like, and I saw nothing much has changed except Shaman. I said, okay, I'm just not enjoying Hearthstone as much. I also didn't feel like making videos because I was just not too keen on it. Also, like, you'll see, this is not just me, because at this time, during May to June, so around that time, like May, Solon, one of the bigger Hearthstone content creators, he said he was just going to stream less, or is just going to stream less and get less videos for Hearthstone, but he was still going to play it. So that was one thing, and then I saw Raren. Raren put out a video around the same time as well, and he said he mostly plays Standard while Solon plays Wild. But just having these 2 content creators put out the video, it is time for a change. I think it is this one. This video, he talks about how he's just not been feeling it, it's not that fun, and I just had to agree, because like, just the way, as I said, the lack or reduced deck creativity mainly because of how consistent Mage and Paladin were. It becomes hard to get off meta decks that you can use to make videos for, right? And I also looked at Regis Kilburn. I remember watching either one video of his or on a stream. He was like kind of having trouble some days to get a new deck. But like Regis is just so good at like keeping positive, or just taking it best as you can and not showing it too much. I would tend to put it out more, right? Make it be acknowledged that Hearthstone is just not so fun right now, or back then. Yeah, so I just connected with them. A couple streamers saying similar things. It can't just be a trend. Also, me, like, I watch Tice a lot because he gets really happy and giddy when something's broken and he plays it. Gets to top 50 legend. Going back to the mini set, in hindsight, I think the mini set did change things, because when I started playing it a little bit more towards the end of last month, June, I was getting those back and forth games, those more fair games. I was playing a little bit of a beast druid. What separates a beast druid from the usual guardian druid or token druid is having those beast cards, such as Living Seed, draw a beast. Even I don't think it's in here. I guess Draw the Plains counts. But what I was thinking was the 5 mana Menagerie Guardian. So, I mean, that was off meta. I enjoyed that. And then, I guess I went to Regis. I saw Regis's video on a Yogg Hunter. That was actually taken from the number 2 legend Yogg Hunter. And that was actually a decent deck. It just works. So we 4-2 of it, right? So I was having quite a bit of fun with this deck. You don't even need to use Yogg, but it's just there as a finisher, right? Like, the main thing was like Warthog Wrangler into Teacher's Pet was like really good because you buff it, right? And you discover Teacher's Pet because you're only running Teacher's Pet and one other beast in the deck, so you're guaranteed to discover it. And yeah, so it becomes a 6/6 with taunt and summon something. Good defense. And given that you are facing some aggressive decks, Teacher's Pet buffed is quite good. And like the main thing, like with these cheat spells, right? Which has double synergy with being able to get 10 spells for Yogg-Saron, but also for Cold Card Pack Runner. So you can play Cold Card Pack Runner, Serpent Bloom. One of your 1/1 was with Rush. And then that summons another 1/1. So like, if you look at it, this is the mini set card, right? But all these other cards are not mini set. But like the fact that the mini set exists, I guess, helped push the extra deck building freedom. Like, for example, as I said in the with the Shaman card that draws 2. I guess Hearthstone is more fun now. But unfortunately, this is where RuneScape comes in. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. I should say unfortunately for Hearthstone, trying to get me back in. This is where RuneScape comes in. I've just been enjoying RuneScape a lot more. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, the discussion, or just the ideas I talked about, go ahead and leave a like. And maybe you can subscribe so you know when I release videos like this in the future.